Hey there, Vermont and America. Seeing how we are, right? This is going to be huge. We are. It's a Sunday, Palm Sunday. On top of that, for all you, well, I won't go there. It's a special month in my view. April 17th, 2019, 5 p.m. at the Montpelier State House, the Proposition 5, the age 57 abortion rights bills, have a public hearing. I'd advise every Vermonter with a conscience, or every Vermonter that is sick and tired of 46 plus years worth of fear-mongering, not using technology, unwilling to provide safeties when a mass majority of Vermonters wanted safeties put in to the bills, and yet just judging by the reading, there's a lot of ignoring going on. So if Vermonters are sick and tired of the barbaric style approach, it's 2019, by the way. We're in the 21st century. Just in case you didn't know that. Women still, they want, it's their body, it's their way or the highway approach. Vermont is not a very good example when it comes to ethics, let alone writing decent legislation. So I would suggest that any Vermonters that have children, if you're a parent of sons and a daughter, for example, if you're kind of sick and tired of the lopsided, it's their way or the highway approach down in Montpelier, because listen, I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of bragging going on that, I mean, Vermont is all that in a bag of chips, and we're sitting dead last, number 50 GDP. We have toxic blue-green algae all over Lake Champlain. Plenty of landfills seeping in all over the place up there. Bernie Sanders, back when he was mayor, this is dating back 30 plus years. What in the hell did you Burlington taxpayers pay Bernie Sanders for anyway? I mean, Myra Weinberger is no stud muffin either. He's bragging about losing money finally selling Burlington Telecom. Another multi-million-dollar loss. I'm sorry. That report, the Mueller Report's coming up. I apologize. Just got out of the shower, getting ready to head off to church later this afternoon, and completely cleaned my desks. Kind of got the pile of paperwork over there, filing taxes, hating every bit of it. So listen. Montpelier, Vermont is a socialist model. It stinks. Just going to let you know right up front. You have not made progress whatsoever. I mean, there are some pockets of progress, let's say. Vermont is dead last, number 50 GDP. You're wondering why people are leaving the state, because you're number one. Most tax states were completely against seniors. You're in the top 5 in several other categories. You're dropped dead last, number 50 GDP. Meanwhile, we've got a bonehead, and I apologize. Bonehead is rather, it's slightly mean, I guess. But when you're out giving one of the worst Vermont legislators $18 million to run for president, You're not really using, I mean, do you just love to keep rewarding failure? I mean, Bernie Sanders is far from a successful legislator, let alone, I'm still dripping from the shower, let alone, yeah, he finally wrote a book. And now people are stunned to find out that he owns 3 properties and he's a multi-millionaire. Meanwhile, he's out begging for donations, promising you that he's going to be working for the working man and he's going to be working for the poor. Meanwhile, he comes up with one of the worst Medicare or Medicare/Medicaid for all plans. Because listen, I know what Bernie Sanders is pitching now. He completely, during the 2011 launch with Peter Shumlin, with really senior Senator Leahy, who's another reason for term limits, himself, Bernie Sanders, as well as lying Peter Welch, because Peter Welch will lie right to your face, even when you ask him a direct question while you're shaking his hand. You would ask him if he is going to help Vermonters with tax relief and tax reform, because Vermont is one of the most corrupt states in the country when it comes to finding ways to steal money away from hardworking taxpayers. We are rock bottom 50 GDP. Rock bottom. Dead last. We have colleges closing down now because of these professors that are so far left indoctrinating our children about the climate change apocalypse, while not ever accepting common sense solutions. I mean, that's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? You educate us. We give you some rock solid common sense approaches. But because you've been greasing Montpelier for decades and decades, and you've been sitting just indoctrinating young kids in fear-mongering tactics, the climate change apocalypse, meanwhile you're ignoring several private companies that have actually solved the problems that you are sitting there trying to tax the living heck out of Vermonters about. Wow, that is a corrupt, rigged system if I've ever heard it. And this article is on the Green Mountain Republicans social media feed. The website's coming down this week, by the way. Giving you a heads up there. The infrastructure here in the state, and with some of the buffering issues, going to redesign a whole new model that's just going to be, well, one, it's going to be pretty fast. 2, it's going to be able to accept online payments. Because I got to admit, Vermont is a rigged anti-business state. You can't even go out and try to raise awareness about some of these public hearings, trying to raise funding to keep, let's just say, the No Carbon Tax Vermont group that's out on Facebook. Now, granted, they may have organized that group as a super PAC. They're probably going to start accepting money online. Have no idea what they're going to be selling for products or services, let's say. I mean, listen, I supported it because I know how much of a complete and utter farce this climate change apocalypse fear-mongering tactic is. I lived out in California. California is no model to be following. Yeah, they've got some Hollywood stars, but California is a very corrupt state, and a lot of it has to do with money. Montpelier, I think, is kind of going through the same thing right now. It's all pay for play. I mean, when you can't get any coverage, when you're offering rock-solid approaches to solving some of this climate change apocalypse fear-mongering that's out there, and all you get is negative feedback. People can't seem to understand reverse engineering plastics back into a heating fuel. Interesting. That's just, all that's doing is just when you're being, just because you didn't think of it. I mean, listen, that was, I read through that website. That Priyanka Bayaka, I hope I enunciated her name correctly. That was a brilliant reverse engineering process, as well as creating a very successful business model that could not only create jobs here in Vermont, remove a lot of the plastic. We've got generations after generations worth of landfills. Once you use it, you just toss it away. That generation. Now listen, that's a fun little swipe. Whatever, I know it's going to piss off somebody. But when you are purposely ignoring rock solid professionals that are actually providing some brilliant solutions, just because it completely deflates your tax code that you were planning on putting on a small population, that's completely unsustainable, because Vermont's economy is only part-time mediocre jobs. There's a very small list of companies throughout the state of Vermont that even offer benefits. When you've got 96% of Vermont that are small business owners, 96%, and then you're going to push a $500 million tax scheme, a taxpayer-funded plan to destroy 200 miles of Green Mountain Ridgeline while installing 30,000 acres of heavy metal solar farms, and you want to pat yourself on the back because you've already fallen behind your own climate change goals because, one, you shut down Vermont Yankee. Two, you're unwilling to listen to unwilling to listen to advanced small modular reactors that are in the testing phase in several areas, as well as that company Renewlogy, which has listen, I got to give her props. That is an awesome reverse engineering process. What's sad is you got Vermonters down in Montpelier that have shut down. They're so narrow-minded, they're so stuck in the past in the 60s that they're unwilling to listen to some really rock-solid solutions. That's kind of a bummer. That's a major bummer. What that is, that's another abuse of power. April 17th, 2019, they have a public hearing at the State House in Montpelier to discuss proposal, or yeah, it is proposal 5, I think is what they labeled it, the H57, the abortion right bill, or the abortion rights bills, or the unwillingness to add safeties. Because let's face it, you're going to affect a business model, or let's just say a Dirty Monday greasing machine that several Democrats/progressives have probably become rather reliant on, let's say, because they're willing to outright barbaric abortion, no safeties, no rights for parents to have their own children consult them about something that they're definitely not either ready for. Because at 16, I do not care what you say. They are not ready to vote, and they are certainly not ready to make a decision that risks their own lives about removing a baby. And Vermont is not an example. 40 plus years, right around the same whatever with Roe versus Wade. Vermont is one of the most alcoholic, drug-infested states in the country that has lost more. Every single family just about has been affected by that exact statistic. You try to offer solutions there, and because it's against let's face it, an alcoholic has a hard enough time admitting that they're an alcoholic, let alone wanting to get the help. And then when you start trying to discuss the long-term effects about pot, on how it definitely has caused a lot of schizophrenia. I mean, some really serious mental disorders. I mean, forget it. You're going to get just attacked by people that love smoking their pot. Okay, because that's all they want to do is basically sit and smoke pot as much as they want all day. And then when you start mixing alcohol with pot, oh goodness, boy, is that a nightmare to deal with, because you not only have you have individuals that have the munchies, they have serious anger management issues as well. And that's for women and men. I mean, we've got enough women beating up on their husbands or whatever out there. Vermont just ignores that. Or you've got men beating up on their wives. I mean, you try to help these people and there isn't. They end up, I mean, there is help, but it's not an easy process. And having worked a few of those jobs, I don't ever want to do it again. I get sick and tired of trying to help people that all they do is complain, or just end up going back doing the exact same thing. They just won't break the cycle. And after a while, you know, it's one, it's hard to watch, and two, after you've lost enough people, you just, I don't know, you realize that I don't know, you should probably try to do it or approach it at a different level. Working in it is not fun. And I mean, Vermont has several issues between blatantly just labeling and discriminating against veterans. As much as people claim that they're educated in the state of Vermont, a lot of them are just academia, utopian types. Kind of like Bernie Sanders' approach. That tax code he's talking about. He's labeled it, we need a progressive tax code. Sounds very oppressive to me. Because, listen, France is one of the most tax-free world countries going on. You got the yellow vest protests over in France right now because of these. They're sick and tired of being taxed, okay? Our country was founded on that after England was taxing everything. And then you've got Bernie Sanders pitching a outdated ideology just because the younger generation has no clue, none whatsoever. Well, they do have a clue. But just because it sounds good and it sounds free, without doing any research about socialism, Democrat socialism, progressive socialism, nationalist, Democrat, socialist. Yeah, there was some of that too. I mean, and this right here, this is going to be very interesting. Because as much as Bernie Sanders was so excited about the Mueller Report, and he's out there gaining ground because he wants to see the full report. And now Kamala Harris finally wants to be transparent all of a sudden. I got a feeling, and listen, I'm only spitballing it here because I haven't served in the U.S. Naval Submarine Service in a while, but when it comes to keeping secrets, the U.S. Naval Submarine Service is some of the best in the business. I mean, the only time we had issues was when someone outside, usually, would breach or sell out, like Toshiba when they sold the milling technology to the Russians back in the 80s. We've got an interesting Julian Assange with it's Ms. Manning now, right? Chelsea Manning. That's going to open up a whole new ball of wax. And next week, when the Mueller Report is released, to see the reaction by the Democrat/progressive socialist already attempting to discredit Barr, already so upset about using the keyword spying when there was a FISA request under the Obama administration. Listen, there is about to be... What's kind of sad, though, is there's probably going to be a lot of fish or small fish. I don't want to, offend those small fish that were corrupt within the process, that were trying to sabotage or steal a 2016 presidential election for one of the most corrupt females in political history. And if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, that's fine. She's not a leader. I would never follow that woman. I'm so sick and tired of the Clintons just because they're corrupt. Anything they've touched has not been done legal in one way, shape, or form. I would rather be mentored by someone who teaches you how to do things the correct way, not how to implement 50 Shades of Corruption. And this, I'm just going to go to this Washington Times article. It's kind of short. It's not super long. But, you know what? Here, I'll just give you a little briefage. Maybe this will be a good teaser. So I'm just going to focus right there. The Clinton Foundation is mentioned quite a bit. U.S. uranium, Vladimir Putin's. I mean, this is all going back to 2010. And listen, I know it's probably going to piss off a lot of Vermonters because, listen, when 85% of Vermonters voted for Hillary Clinton, wow. That right there just showed you just how bad Vermont has gotten. When they are that corrupt, let's say, to allow someone who's not... I mean, she basically... I don't know. I don't want to beat up on her. I'm just tired of listening about the Clintons, to be honest with you. The Obama administration did not... They certainly did not win ethics awards, let's just say. Eric Holder did a very corrupt program with that Fast and Furious. And listen, I'm not an attorney general. Eric Holder is Eric Holder. Loretta Lynch is Loretta Lynch. And for Hillary Clinton to get off of what she got off with under that administration, when you had all the bases covered, there was a lot of cronies going on, a lot of cronyism. And Vermont, let's face it, it's not that stellar. When you're number 50 rock bottom GDP, the EB5 scandal alone was a negative $365 million result. You've got the Burlington College debacle. I mean, Jane Sanders is not a real estate speculator. No way. If Jane Sanders gives you any kind of real estate speculation advice, run. Plug your ears and run. Okay? And I'm sorry, Jane, if you're offended by that, but that Burlington College debacle was, you still got to run off with $225,000 of your compensation package, and you left a lot of hurt and pain on a bunch of young kids. You're not winning points with me there. On top of the slimy deal in the back office that you and your husband agreed to or whatever in order to endorse Hillary Clinton for the 2016 attempt to rig a presidential election. That fake Russian dossier, the Uranium One deal, the Clinton Foundation, the $145 million with that Uranium One deal, on how they tried to disguise it through foundations, companies, or company fronts in order to sell uranium to the Russians, and then the Russians sold missile platforms to the Iranians. The whole Iranian deal, that was not a good deal. Probably one of the worst negotiated deals in American history. And yeah, that's probably going to piss off Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, but I'm sorry. You've got them still doing the dance on hating America and Israel, and they are the #1 terrorist state in the Middle East. And I got a feeling hopefully more of that will come out. There was a lot of it that was being ignored because of certain individuals that are in power. And I think this Mueller report, as much as Bernie Sanders was dodging every invite to debate in the spring, summer, and fall, as much as you say you want campaign, or let's just say money out of politics, campaigning, boy, you certainly have benefited from it there, Bernie Sanders. I mean, when you dodge debates, when people are unwilling or afraid to face somebody who's intelligent, who's actually been off the coast of Vladivostok, Russia, when it collapsed, who's been off the coast of China when Tiananmen Square went down in '89, who could actually not only debate you on your own, I don't know, your own fascination with socialism, communism, Maoism. When you're sitting there pitching socialism, fear-mongering our children in a climate change apocalypse while accepting small money donations, you're a multi-millionaire, you're unwilling to debate anybody, you can't even answer a direct question, and you expect to be the President of the United States? No. You're not. That's just no way. I can't believe that. Listen, I gotta admit, I'm amazed that there are people following you. I'm amazed that there's people giving you $18 million worth of donation money. I'm seriously worried about the ones that put the tattoo of your head on them. I feel a little sorry for them. But listen, if they're that fanatical, either they never had a very good teacher. But see, this right here, this is what is going to happen next week. There's going to be a very interesting dragnet that is going to actually catch a lot of the cronies within the former administration, within the former CIA, within the former FBI, within the, or I can't really necessarily say former, because a lot of these people are just, there is no doubt that there was a serious corruption ring under the Obama administration that feared an American citizen running for a public office. And there's no doubt that there was spying going on. There was no doubt there was an abuse of power going on. There was no doubt there was laws broken. And listen, when I was out getting signatures just to run against Bernie Sanders, when you have Bernie Sanders supporters unwilling to just give you a signature so you could have an opportunity to debate the socialist rock star, the one of the least successful legislators ever elected from Burlington to the U.S. Congress, a third-term U.S. Senator who's now running for a second time for President of the United States, pitching socialism in one of the most successful countries, one of the most innovative countries. I mean, he's sitting there trying to pass down failure. He's already destroyed the state of Vermont's healthcare systems. In 2011, between Leahy, Sanders, and Welch and Peter Shumlin, We have the longest waiting lines now from anywhere from 3 to 12 months. That is the Canadian model. You've achieved your goal, Bernie Sanders. You've destroyed one of the most innovative healthcare systems, at least for the state of Vermont. You now have a 3 to 12 month waiting list if doctors will even, and forget if you're a veteran. Vermont is a very discriminative state. It does not like veterans. They would rather label you with assumed PTSD. They would rather label you with every other thing out there on the planet rather than listening to some of your experience or the awards that you've earned both in the military and one of the most innovative private investment banking companies on the planet. You just want to shout, keep people out. There's a public hearing April 17th, 2019. Proposition 5, the H57 abortion rights bills, the laziest legislative branch, the worst performing state in the country, number 50. One of the most rigged, lopsided Democrat/progressive socialist supermajorities in the country. And you expect good legislation? We're dead last in several categories now under this lopsided Democrat/progressive socialist. And Vermont has been a socialist state for well over a decade. Almost over a decade. It used to be in the top 40s, early 40s in GDP. Dead last. That's a very short period of time to slide that far down the ladder, on top of rising as fast as we have on one of the most taxed states in the country, one of the poorest states on top of that, one of the least innovative states with the worst infrastructure that dates back in Burlington's socialist mayor Bernie Sanders days. Still nothing fixed up there. Think about that for a bit. The Mueller Report is coming out, and I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of Democrat/progressive socialists that are going to be really upset when they start investigating the investigators. There's going to be let's just say a surprise. I bet there's going to be some names in there that you never expected. And although we all know the Russian collusion story dates deep in the corruption within that administration. Uranium One deal alone, that was so corrupt. The Clinton foundations, the way they were funneling money around, man. And trust me, Vermont is not a very ethical state. I think we sit rock bottom in ethics as well, because when it comes to when 85% of the population vote for Hillary Clinton, you know there's a serious problem. There will be a female president, and I don't know. Anything to do with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, Leahy, Welch, way too much corruption just in a very short period of time to destroy a very beautiful state. And Vermont's legislative body right now, no way. Nope. It is a lopsided, socialist, bureaucratic, fast way to failure. Vermont's dead last, number 50. You offer solutions to address the climate change with some pretty brilliant technology from individuals that really took the time to design the process, well thought out, and yet you got 7 CEOs down in Montpelier. A former Ben & Jerry's founder, because he sold it He made his millions selling out to Unilever. And listen, I like Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I admit it. It's pretty good. But when he's that corrupt now, that he's influencing or trying to keep certain technologies out of the state of Vermont, there's some corruption going on. You got 3 elected officials that are within the, 100% renewable energy industry, let's say. There's some ethic violations right there. I'm smelling some deep corruption. Who's getting greased? When they will not even allow some other presentations to be presented to the legislative branches. It's all one way or the highway. Go to the Green Mountain Republicans. I posted a bunch of links. You might have to scroll on some of them. You might have to just, it's not that hard to scroll. There's several links to Renewology, the reverse engineering of plastics. Vermont has several landfills. Many of them probably seeping a lot of junk into Lake Champlain that could be mined, cleaned up, generate jobs here in the state of Vermont, which I know that, working, that scares a lot of people. And then on top of addressing one of the most corrupt, rigged tax codes for failure. I don't know. It's not too hard to figure that one out. Obviously, there's certain companies that fear competition. And when there's companies that fear small business owners, that's just completely killing every aspect of the dream. It's all rigged for failure. Now that they've got their money, they don't want anybody else getting theirs. Or even offering some really rock-solid solutions. That's seriously sad. Vermont is a socialist state. It has been for a while. That's the reason why it's rock dead last. That's the reason why it's dying and decaying. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but it is. When you have one of the most taxed states, you're dead last. There's several categories that you're failing in now. It's way too bureaucratic in Montpelier. It's way too rigged. It's getting greased by people that fear competition, I guess. I don't know. Think about it. Oh, there's another. Hey, speaking of another public hearing, April 23rd, the banning of fossil fuels. That's a public hearing that you should also go to. I am dying to hear this. Have a great weekend.